Now, so many people struggle with a busy mind and not being able to get past this kind of surface level experience in meditation. Most people just touch upon it and they give up because they don't know how to go deeper in their meditation. They don't know what that process looks like of going from your busy kind of thinking mind into a more deep meditative state. So in this video I'm going to break down and give you 4 tips on how to go deep in your meditation. And this isn't, as a bit of a caveat, this isn't a quick fix. Meditation is a long-term process. It's not something that you just start today and tomorrow you're going into these deep transcendental states. That's not going to happen with meditation. That might happen here and there. It might be that you have an experience really early on, but experiences come along and they go quite quickly for some people, for most people. For some people they last a bit longer, but for most people they come and go. So in this video, I'm going to explain how you can use these 4 tips to get deeper in your meditation and give you a better understanding of your mind as a whole and the different layers and levels to your mind that you are going to experience in meditation. So, first of all, the mind is made up of 3 distinct areas. So we've got the conscious mind, which is where we live most of the time. That's where we experience life. That's where we experience life through the 5 senses and we think rationally. And within the conscious mind we have 2 different aspects. We have our ego, which is like the part of us which is primitive, which is emotional, which is impulsive, which is our kind of resistance to doing positive things. And then we have our human mind, or our higher self, which is our logical, rational thinking part of the mind. And for most people, they are operating very heavily in their ego aspect, otherwise known as the chimp part of the mind. And that's like the lowest level of the mind. The conscious mind is the chimp or ego aspect of the conscious mind. Then on top of that, as I said, we've got the higher self, or the human mind, which is our rational, logical thinking, the part of us that makes the plans to go to the gym tomorrow or to start meditating tomorrow. And that's the part of us which is kind of our positive side, if you wanted to talk in positive and negative terms. So beyond the conscious mind, we then have the subconscious. And this is like our computer system. This is the part where everything that we think about in our conscious mind, all of the experiences we take in through the conscious mind, we process, and that then gets processed into the subconscious. So all of our behaviors, all of our ways of working that become habitual, or our behaviors that we inherit or we embody regularly that then become habitual, they get programmed into our subconscious mind. The subconscious mind then, throughout the large portion of the day, roughly 70 to 80% of our day is led then by our subconscious mind, which we have instilled from the ego and the conscious mind, and also our experiences, our social conditioning, the people we've been around, all of that contributes, and that goes into our hard drive, if you like, which is our subconscious mind, the computer. And that then feeds all of that inbuilt information throughout the day in our thoughts and behaviors and things like that, and we experience that in the body, and that gets fed into the conscious mind. And it kind of ends up in this continuous loop between the subconscious mind then fueling the thinking mind, and when it comes into the mind, it can either be taken by the ego or the human aspect of the conscious mind. So the thing that kind of gets in the way of the subconscious mind is our conscious human aspect of the mind. So when we have a thought, let's say, that the subconscious mind produces, we have the option to act on that, or to believe that, or to do what we want with that thought. And if we just go along with everything that comes into our mind, we fall into this kind of habitual cycle of just automatically responding, automatically behaving, and we fall into this pattern of not really having any conscious awareness of what's going on. And if we start to interrupt that process, so let's say we feel jealousy about something, instead of just behaving in a way that is aligned with jealousy, we might check that and say, hang on, I'm actually not happy with the fact that I'm feeling jealous. I don't have to act in a way that is aligned with jealousy. And that's then when we start interrupting automatic behaviors from the subconscious mind to the conscious mind. But quite often what happens is it comes from the subconscious and straight to the conscious mind, and the ego gets hold of it. And it says, yeah, I'm jealous, that person shouldn't have been close to my partner or whatever. And that then creates an emotional response, because that's how that aspect of the mind works. The whole cycle continues because we're just refueling that back into the subconscious, and then it comes around again eventually. So it's important to get an understanding of this for meditation. So beyond the subconscious mind is then the superconscious. There's an infinite depth to the superconscious mind, and that is the same mind that is connected to everything and everyone. So everyone has the same access to this same superconscious mind. And we use meditation as a tool to work through the different layers and eventually touch upon and understand the superconscious mind. So now we've got an understanding of the different layers. We've got the conscious mind with the ego and the human aspect. We've got the subconscious, which is the computer, and then we've got the superconscious, which is our intuitive, selfless, there's no sense of self, expansive love aspect of ourselves. And we are intimately connected with all of these layers. We are just living at a level of consciousness which is at the conscious mind level. So when we start to meditate, we start to increase our level of consciousness so that we are experiencing bigger and bigger possibilities, if you like. So we experience life at the moment in our conscious mind, and as we increase in consciousness through meditation, we experience eventually parts of the subconscious and eventually the superconscious. And this is the whole process of getting deeper. So the real important part with this is that the conscious mind is intimately connected, obviously, to our senses. So we have to get the senses under control before we can move beyond the conscious mind, because the conscious mind needs to control the senses. But quite often for most people, the senses are running the show. And so they can't move beyond the conscious mind because they're getting caught and drawn away by sounds, they're getting drawn away by smells or tastes, or the need to move their body. They get fidgety, maybe that parts of the body ache, and that really draws their attention away. So it's super important to get control of the body. So the way I teach meditation, I've been practicing meditation for over 20 years. I started when I was 6 years old, and this is why I'm putting these videos out. When I teach people, I really emphasize getting the physical body under control. So when you sit down, sitting in a formal position and not so it's painful, but just so that you're making the body sit in a way that you want to, because you are in charge. You are not this body. There is an aspect of you that gets to control this body. But in life we get wrapped up and we believe we are the body. We're not the body. We're just in charge of the body. We're experiencing life in a body. So we have to start to take control of this body, and we do that in meditation. So we sit in a particular way with our legs in a particular way, and a nice straight spine, and we might use a mudra, a hand position, and we breathe nice and steadily, and we do all of these things, these little intricacies that make us have control of the body. And the reason for that is, as I say, when we can control the body, we're controlling the senses. So, to some degree we're controlling that aspect of ourselves, but we have to then become aware of when we're getting drawn away by sounds or smells and other sensual distractions. And when that happens, we have to keep coming back to the focal point. And most people give up with meditation because they can't get beyond this physical aspect of the practice. They get too distracted by sounds or the way that the discomfort in the body, and that they experience that in feelings, and they create thoughts about that, and then they get caught up in this whole cycle. So first things first is that we have to understand that it takes time to train your mind to accept that the body is going to kick up a bit of a fight and you're going to become distracted, and that's normal. So just keep reining in your attention away from those things. And it doesn't matter if it takes you months and months to get to this point where you can bring your attention and keep it in a central point, maybe following your breathing or whatever the meditation is you're doing, and not become distracted by things external to you. Now, you're always going to notice things, that's fine, but if you can let them go really quickly, that's when you know you're improving. When you're getting caught up in things and repeatedly getting distracted by the same thing, that's when you know there's an area you need to improve, really. So it might be that there's a clock ticking in the room and you become really hyper aware of it, but eventually you just let go of that. It's not a thing anymore. You know, in a week or in 2 weeks or 3 weeks, you'll be meditating and then you'll realize that you've not been aware of that thing. And that's when you know you've grown, you've gone beyond that. So we need to get the senses under control before we can move into deeper states of mind or higher levels of consciousness, which is deeper meditations, basically. So getting control of the body is first and foremost, and reining in our attention. The two ways that we do that is by making ourselves sit in a formal position, so not meditating lying down or in a bath or when you're walking around, because you naturally are overriding the sense control aspect. So yes, it might make the meditation easier in the short term, but you're not developing the ability to manage your own senses. And I know it can sound a little bit kind of weird when I say it in that way, but it is a real skill and it is something that you develop. So sitting in a formal position, not so it's uncomfortable, but just so it's formal, is super important. That's number one. So the second tip is to do some sort of breathing exercise before you move into your meditation. Now, what this does is it just accelerates the process of moving from a conscious thinking mind, especially if you've had a busy day and things like that, into a more subconscious mind state. And the way that works is the subconscious mind, as well as being involved in automatic behaviors, habitual behaviors, and storing memories, it also controls many of our automatic bodily functions, so digestion, our heart beating, our breathing. Those are things that we do without thinking. So if we start to interrupt that process, if we suddenly start doing a breathing exercise where we're breathing nice and deeply and really controlled and consciously tuning into that breathing, we interrupt this subconscious mind activity, and it accelerates our ability to move into a more subconscious mind state. So doing a breathing exercise prior to meditation is a real beneficial way of accelerating your practice. So you'll find that you can do 5 minutes of, say, pranayama breathing or qigong or box breathing. Have a look on other YouTube videos at those, or I'll do one in the future. An exercise like that, and then moving into meditation. That's a really good way of calming the conscious mind down and then going into a practice where you can start to move beyond the conscious mind into subconscious and superconscious mind states, which are deep levels of meditation. The other practice that you can do alongside breathing exercises is cold exposure. So having a cold shower, going in the sea, going in a river, doing whatever. A cold shower is probably the simplest way, a couple of minutes before, because that forces you to move out of a thinking mind state, because you can't think. When it's so cold, you're just in the now. You are just immersed in what's going on because you can't think beyond that. Everything kind of closes down. Now, in the long term, when you come out of the shower, everything goes back to normal. So you don't get the benefits that you do in a meditation where you're training yourself to overcome these things consciously. They're just happening naturally in a shower. So the long-term benefits in a meditation are better. It will help you move into a deeper state in the meditation. So ideally, you'd get up in the morning, you'd have a cold shower, you'd do a couple of minutes, 5 minutes of pranayama, then you'd go into your meditation. And this accelerates your meditation, your ability to find depth in your meditation massively. Tip number 3 is to start to introduce a practice called the beginner's mind. And what this is that when we've been meditating for a little while, it's really easy to fall into expectation. So we kind of build a picture of what meditation looks like and how we should feel at certain stages in the meditation, and what the experiences are going to be and how we're going to feel. We build this picture of our meditation experience. Now, what can happen is that we kind of cap ourselves with that. We create this expectation and an attachment in some ways as to what things should look like and how things are going to be and what the experience is going to be. Now, if we can go into the meditation taking on this approach as if the meditation was our first ever meditation, and we've got no expectation, we don't know what the experience is going to be, we're not creating this plan almost ahead of time, we're just going in with an open mind with no expectation of how it's going to look or feel, you can quite often find that that automatically raises something within our mind. It gives us a more open mind, a more open outlook, and with that it allows us to accept these higher levels of consciousness. It's a real powerful practice called the beginner's mind. It's a Zen practice, and we can integrate this into our meditation. We can do this with every meditation. Every meditation we should turn up and introduce this beginner's mind viewpoint, where we take the experience as it is without trying to construct within our mind how it should look, because we start creating little barriers when we do that. Fourth tip, and most important, is practice. And I know it's simple, I know it doesn't sound like the most exciting thing in the world, but practicing every single day is going to be the biggest thing that allows you to go deeper in your meditation. It is incredibly powerful just practicing daily, just doing it every single day, not necessarily having real strict guidelines of how long you're going to meditate, but just go in with intent, go in with an aspiration to want to know more and want to go deeper with it and understand yourself on a deeper level. And you will, eventually you will. So the 4 tips are: discipline the body, sit in a formal way, and don't get drawn away by your senses. Second tip, introduce a breathing exercise or cold exposure before your meditation. Number 3, adopt the beginner's mind before you meditate. Number 4, practice consistently. Practice every single day, and you will get deeper in your meditation. And final thing is, I know I've created a distinction between the different levels of mind. Now this is just to be able to explain it, because obviously there's no easy way to explain these things. We have to use labels, we have to use terms to be able to understand it with our limited human mind. But ultimately they are just various levels of consciousness within the entire absolute consciousness. And what you'll come to learn is that if you are experiencing, or you have the capacity to experience, all of those levels of consciousness, that must mean that you are the absolute consciousness. You're just living life, or we are just living life at a limited range of consciousness. So this is what meditation will hopefully allow you to, or help you to understand as time goes on. I hope this video is of use to you. If you like it, please hit the like button, please subscribe to the channel, please send it to a friend, and I'll see you on the next video.